The smell of popcorn mixed with the electric buzz of game day filled the Crestwood High gym. Banners flapped. The crowd roared. But just off the field, Jania Cole stood still, her heart pounding like a second drumline. 16. Determined. And the first black cheerleader in the school's history. She adjusted the navy blue and gold uniform, Crestwood's colors, and tried to steady her breathing. This wasn't just another game. It was a message, I belong here. Some of the cheerleaders smiled at her. Others barely looked her way. From the sidelines, a few football players whispered, smirking. Then came the voice that always found a way to cut deeper than most. Tyler. Senior linebacker. Arrogant. And the unofficial gatekeeper of Crestwood's status quo. Yo, Cole, he called out loud enough for the crowd to hear. You sure cheerleading's your thing? I mean, just don't mess up the image. Laughter scattered through the team. Not loud. But loud enough. Jania didn't flinch. She smiled. Tight and practiced. I'm here to cheer for the team, same as everyone else. But the sting lingered. She wasn't being challenged because of her talent. She was being challenged because she didn't fit into their comfortable little mold. Scene 2, that evening, the Cole family home. Dinner was quiet. Homemade spaghetti, garlic bread, and tension. Commander Elijah Cole, Navy SEAL, father, and man of few but mighty words, sat across from his daughter, listening carefully. Jania recounted the day. The fake smiles. The looks. Tyler. The whispers. Elijah didn't react with fire. He never did. Instead, he leaned forward, his eyes steady, voice calm. You did good today. When you're the first, they try to knock you down. But you're not just walking this path for yourself, Ja. You're opening a door for the ones who come next. She nodded. But inside, she ached. She was proud. She was exhausted. And she was alone. Scene 3, the escalation. Over the next few weeks, the hostility escalated. From passive-aggressive to unmistakable. At practice, football players would accidentally shoulder her to the ground. Her cheers were ignored. Her ideas dismissed with eye rolls and laughs. And Tyler? He made sure the message stayed clear. She didn't belong. Not here. Not with them. Then came the moment that would fracture whatever resolve she had left. One afternoon, Jania opened her locker to find her cheer uniform soaked in red soda, shredded at the sleeves, slurs and hateful remarks scrawled across the fabric. She stared at it. Motionless. Then, with trembling hands, she balled it up and walked out. No tears. Not yet. Not in public. Scene 4, home, midnight talk. She sat on her bed, eyes fixed on the wall. The uniform lay across her knees like a wound. Elijah knocked once, then entered. He saw the damage. He didn't need an explanation. The scent of syrup and shame clung to the fabric. They ruined it, she whispered. Elijah sat beside her, placing a firm hand on her back. You thinking about quitting? Silence. I want to, she admitted. It's not worth this. Elijah didn't speak right away. When he did, his voice was low. Quitting's easy, Ja. But you weren't raised to be easy to break. Sometimes, you have to fight. Not with fists. Not with yelling. But with presence. With purpose. If you walk away, they win. But if you stand tall, they'll learn who they're messing with. Scene 5, the uniform returns. The next day, Jania walked into school wearing the defaced uniform. She didn't try to hide it. She didn't apologize. She let every slur and rip speak louder than silence. In the bleachers during practice, she laid the uniform down in full view, like a flag in the ground. Some kids laughed. But most just stared. She wasn't broken. She was rising. Scene 6, Friday night game, the final straw. That Friday, Memorial Stadium was packed. Jania led her squad through cheers, her voice fierce. And then, during halftime, just as she was about to step forward, something hit her. A bucket. Cold, foul-smelling liquid poured over her head. The crowd gasped. A few laughed. Others just looked away. She stood there, dripping in humiliation, blinking back tears. Her teammates rushed to help. But the damage had already been done. This wasn't a joke anymore. This was targeted. This was hate. Scene 7, Father's move. When she got home, Elijah didn't speak. He didn't need to. The stench said enough. I knew it would get worse, he said, calmly. But you're not alone. And this ends now. That night, Elijah drafted a letter to the school board. Not as a SEAL. Not as a war veteran. But as a father. A father who refused to let his daughter be broken by a school that refused to protect her. Scene 8, School Board Meeting, the speech that changed everything. The auditorium was full, parents, students, reporters. Jania sat beside her father, eyes forward. Elijah approached the podium. Calm. Direct. Unshaken. My daughter, Jania Cole, is the first black cheerleader in Crestwood High's history. She earned that spot. But what she's received in return is harassment, abuse, and hate. He listed the incidents. The slurs. The uniform. The public humiliation. I'm not here for punishment. I'm here for accountability. This school must do better. You don't have to celebrate her. But you will protect her. The room went silent. Then it erupted. Applause. Shouts of support. Even teachers stood. Crestwood had been exposed, and it was time to change. Scene 9, the turning tide. In the weeks that followed, something shifted. Teachers began open conversations about race and respect. Clubs were formed. Students spoke out. Some of Jania's own teammates, once silent, now stood beside her. Even Sarah, a sophomore who had once ignored her, walked up after practice. I'm sorry for not saying something sooner. You're amazing. Jania smiled, warm, but knowing. Even Tyler began to change. He didn't apologize. But the sneers faded. One afternoon, he passed her by the bleachers and mumbled. Maybe I was wrong. You do belong here. It wasn't a full truce. But it was a start. Scene 10, the final game. The last game of the season. The stadium lit like a stage. Jania stood front and center, strong, proud, whole. She led the squad with precision. And this time, the cheers were for her, too. At halftime, Tyler approached her again, this time with no sarcasm. You were great out there, he said. Thanks, she replied. Just 2 words, but full of weight. Scene 11, home, the porch, the lesson. That night, Jania sat beside her father on their porch. The sky was soaked in gold. Dad, she said, I think I finally get it. It's not about fitting in. It's about standing up, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Elijah looked at his daughter. No longer just a girl in a uniform. But a young woman with scars, and strength. You didn't just change the school, Ja. You reminded them that silence protects no one. And that courage. That's how change begins. Outro, narrator. They tried to break her spirit. But they didn't know who she was. And they definitely didn't know who raised her. This is more than just a story about a cheerleader. It's about every person who's ever been told they didn't belong. Every kid who walked into a room and felt like they had to shrink to fit. Let Jania's story remind us all. You don't change the world by playing it safe. You change it by showing up, loud, proud, and unbreakable. Elijah turned to her, eyes reflecting the fading light. A soft smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. "You're right," he said, his voice calm and full of pride. Fitting in can be comfortable, but change never starts in comfort. It starts when someone's brave enough to be different, to challenge what's easy for what's right. Jania leaned her head against his shoulder, the cool breeze brushing past them. For a long moment, they just sat there in silence, father and daughter, bound not just by blood but by the fire they both carried, one forged in battlefields, the other in high school hallways and football fields. From that moment on, Jania didn't walk the halls of Crestwood High as a symbol of controversy. She walked as a symbol of courage. She had made it clear that she wouldn't be erased or diminished, and more than that, she had made it safer for others to be seen too. By the time the end-of-year awards came around, the gymnasium was packed again. But this time, the energy was different. Jania sat in the front row with her squad, still in her uniform, her posture tall and composed. When the principal took the stage, he began listing off names for leadership, academic, and athletic awards. Then he paused. "There's one more award tonight," he said, scanning the crowd. "It's not listed in the program because, frankly, it wasn't planned. But this year, a student showed us all what it means to lead, not just with talent or achievement, but with heart, resilience, and an unwavering sense of purpose. Jania Cole, will you please come to the stage?" The gym erupted into applause. Some students stood, clapping. Even a few football players, Tyler included, added their voices to the cheer. Jania rose slowly, stunned, heart pounding as it had on that first day so long ago. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was joy. She walked to the stage, her father standing in the back of the gym, arms crossed, nodding with pride. The principal handed her a plaque. It read, "The Trailblazer Award, for courage in the face of adversity and for paving the way toward a more just and inclusive community." Jania spoke only a few words, but they carried weight. "I didn't set out to make history," she said, voice steady in the microphone. "I just wanted to cheer. But when you're the first, you have to be more than what they expect. And sometimes, you have to be more than what you think you're capable of. I'm grateful for those who stood with me and even for those who didn't, because you taught me how strong I could be. This is just the beginning." The crowd erupted again, not just in applause, but in understanding. In recognition. Later that night, as she packed up her room for the summer, Jania looked at the defaced uniform she had kept tucked away in a box. She didn't keep it as a reminder of the pain, she kept it as proof that she had survived it. That she had turned shame into strength. She folded it carefully and placed it next to the plaque. Because it was all part of her story. A few weeks later, Elijah and Jania stood at a dedication ceremony outside the school. A mural had been painted by local artists, a vibrant depiction of students of all backgrounds cheering together, arms raised high under the school's banner. And in the corner of the mural, nearly hidden but unmistakable, was a girl in a navy blue and gold uniform, standing tall with a fist over her heart. Jania read the inscription beneath it. "To those who stand first, so others can walk freely behind." She reached for her father's hand, her voice barely a whisper. "We did it." Elijah nodded. "You did it." And in that moment, as the sun rose behind them and the paint dried on a wall that would stand for generations, Jania Cole, once a quiet teenager just trying to find her place, had become something far greater. A legacy. A light. A thread in the fabric of change. Fall returned to Crestwood with the crisp scent of change in the air. The leaves, once green and defiant in summer's heat, now blazed with fiery reds and golds, not unlike the fire that had burned within Jania for the last year. She was back, this time not just as a cheerleader, but as captain of the squad. The first game of the season was packed. Bleachers filled to the brim. Families, students, teachers, all buzzing with a different energy. A better one. The new freshman class sat at the front, many of them girls, black, brown, white, Asian, watching her with wide eyes. One of them, a girl named Lila, wore her hair in box braids and had asked the coach on the first day if she could wear cultural beads in her ponytail. The coach hadn't even hesitated this time. As long as it's secure, you're good. Jania had smiled then. And now, seeing Lila wave from the stands in her brand new uniform, Jania knew exactly what it meant. She had broken something open, and through that fracture, sunlight had come pouring in. The drumline began. The crowd roared. The cheerleaders took the field. But before they could launch into their first routine, Jania stepped forward. She raised her fist again, not in defiance, but in tribute. To the struggle. To the growth. To everyone who came before her, and to everyone who would come after. The stadium fell quiet. Even the football players paused. Then, slowly, the rest of her squad raised their fists too. The image was breathtaking. A sea of young women, standing not just for school pride, but for dignity. For equity. For each other. It wasn't a protest anymore. It was a promise. Epilogue, a letter never sent. Later that year, as part of her college application to Howard University, Jania was asked to write a personal statement. Instead of an essay, she drafted a letter, one she never sent, but one she read aloud at graduation. It was addressed to the anonymous person who had defaced her locker. Dear whoever you were. You tried to make me small. You tried to stain something that brought me joy. You tried to turn my pride into shame. But you didn't know who raised me. You didn't know the ground I stood on. You didn't know that I was never alone, not really. Because what you wrote in hate, I rewrote in strength. And what you meant to silence me became the reason I found my voice. You were a chapter in my story. But you'll never be the ending. I forgive you. Not because you asked for it, but because I won't carry your hate into my future. I have too much building to do. Her voice had cracked as she finished, but she stood tall, just like she had that first day. The auditorium rose in a standing ovation. Her father wept openly in the crowd. And above them all, on the banner hanging across the stage, were words Jania had lived by, now embroidered into the school's identity. Let courage be the uniform we all wear. In the span of one school year, Jania Cole went from being the girl who caused trouble to the girl who made space, for herself, and for others. She didn't just wear a uniform. She became the emblem. Proof that one voice, one stand, can ignite a movement. So the next time you see someone daring to stand alone, don't look away. Don't whisper. Don't mock. Watch. Learn. Maybe even stand beside them. Because every movement, every thread of time that stitches this world toward justice, starts with someone who refuses to be small. And Jania? She refused beautifully. If this story touched you, please share it. This is Thread of Time, where stories of courage echo across generations. Until the next one, stay human. Stay loud. Stay kind.